श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णा प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः। प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला। अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं। लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः पिपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमलप्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतस्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै। Namaste everyone. Before we broke for the Christmas vacations, we had concluded studying the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But it is always good for us to go back and try to reflect on what we learned in the past chapters, the 9 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So allow me to spend some time today in trying to revise the chapters that we have studied. The Bhagavad Gita consists of 700 verses, wherein there is a conversation between the disciple Arjuna and the teacher Sri Krishna. It begins with the blind king Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya, his minister, tell me what is happening in the battlefield between my children, Mamakaha, my own people, and the Pandavas, my brother's children. Now Dhritarashtra was blind, and Vyasa, the sage Vyasa, who had supernatural powers, asked Dhritarashtra, look, since you cannot see, I can give you vision just to see what is happening in the battlefield. You can gain your vision. Tell me if you would like me to give you the vision. But the blind king, who is representative of ignorance of ourselves, even though it is granted knowledge, this ignorance refuses to accept knowledge. He says, no, I do not want to see. The main reason was that he knew very well that Sri Krishna is on the Pandavas' side, and even though their army was smaller than his own, he knew because of the presence of Sri Krishna, his army would lose. Therefore, he refuses to see reality, to see the truth. It happens in our lives also. Very often we see that we try to justify something, even though we know intrinsically that it is not right, yet we try to justify and try to make the wrong as right. This is the dilemma of a human being. Anyway, the story goes that Vyasa then gave the sight to Sanjaya to see what is happening away in the battlefield, distant vision. And that's how the Bhagavad Gita starts. The first chapter, very ironically, is known as the Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Vishada means sadness, depression. Vishada comes from the Sanskrit root sad. V is the preposition and sat is the root. The meaning of sat is Visharana, Gati and Avasadana. Visharana is disintegration, destruction. That is known as Visharana. And then Gati. Gati means moving very fast, cannot control. We can't control our emotions at times. It moves very fast. And as a result, what happens is Avasadana. We fall into weakness, we become prey of weakness, and we become depressed. So, the Vishada Yoga, the Bhagavad Gita, instead of starting with some great teachings, it starts with this Visharana. Because unless and until we know the depths of despair, we will not be able to appreciate what real joy is. Therefore, this depression is probably a necessity. All of us, all human beings, regardless of whether you have enough money or any other objects of pleasure, we all go through phases of depression. But that falling down gives us also the push to go up. go down and then we push up also. While we are studying the Bhagavad Gita, we come across a colophon at the end of each chapter. And it says Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu, that this teaching has been given in the Bhagavad Gita, which is equal to an Upanishad. Upanishads are the essence of the Vedic lore. The essential teachings of the Vedic lore are called the Upanishads. And what does it do? It takes you to Brahman, Brahma Vidya, realization of the ultimate goal of life, Brahma Vidya. And then it also says, it is not only the ultimate goal, but this scripture, this Bhagavad Gita, is also a practical guidebook called Yoga Shastra. Shastra means scripture which makes you understand. It is like the manual of any machine that we buy. If we read the manual properly and know how to operate the manual, using the manual, then we will use the machine to its fullest capacity. So there is the science, the Upanishads, and then there is this technology also called the Yoga Shastra. And Bhagavad Gita begins the word Dharma. Dharma is our main hold of all beings, holding upon which one can climb to greater heights. Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example. Children play a game of revolving around a post or a pole. They catch hold of the post or pole, and then they go round and round and round and round, and it gives them a great kick, so to say. As long as their hold upon the post is strong, they will not fall. But the moment they lose their hold, if due to some weakness, if they lose their hold, they will fall down and injure themselves. In the same way, if we keep on to this dharma, to the virtue that I am with God, I am holding on to the divine. Later a time comes when the Lord will hold us, but we start with holding on to the divine. Sri Ramakrishna again used to say, take hold with one hand, catch the feet of the Lord, that is, keep the remembrance of the divine, and with the other hand, you keep on doing your activities. So this dharma that Sri Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita is very practical. It starts with dharma, the Bhagavad Gita starts with dharma, and it ends with the word mama. Mama means mine, my dharma. Mama dharma. What is my dharma? Standing firmly upon the pedestal of or a place where the divine is. I look behind me and around me, then I go forward to reach the destiny that I am supposed to reach. That is Mama Dharma. My dharma is to become one with the divine. To become one with the divine, that is my dharma. There will be other dharmas in our family life and other phases of life. We will have certain duties to perform. But my real dharma, my real religion is to become one with the divine. In dualism, to reach the divine and be in the company of the divine. Kshetre, kshetre, dharma kuru. At all phases of our life, practice this dharma. Every minute of our life, Sri Krishna later talks about it in the Bhagavad Gita. Pashyan, Srindvan, Sprishan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Swashan, Pralapan, Visarjan, Grinhan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Napi. While you are breathing in, while you are breathing out, while you are seeing, while you are hearing, at all times become aware of the presence of the divine. That is the idea that the Bhagavad Gita gives, which we are studying now. In the first chapter, as I said, Arjuna is overcome by two things: Shoka, Moha. Shoka is sorrow, and then Moha is clinging on, attachment. These two are the great hindrances in our life, which does not allow us to go towards the divine. Shoka, we start brooding over our weaknesses or over our misfortunes. And at the same time, we also start brooding over the things on which we do not have any control. We know that we do not have any control, we know intrinsically. Yet, our attachment to those things are so strong that we just cannot give up. Even though Sri Ramakrishna tells the story, the camel goes and eats these acacia thorns. It loves the acacia thorns. And its mouth is bled profusely due to eating the thorns. But yet, the camel loves it because the taste of its own blood, it tastes so delicious to the camel that it does not want to give it up. It keeps on eating that. So in the same way, here also in our life, these two things, that is shoka, sorrow, we get attached to sorrow. And then we also get attached to the things which we possess. Shoka, moha. Bhagavad Gita gives us the solution to get rid of it. It says that a problem can be resolved in three ways, or can be resolved using our three faculties. One is the brain, the intellectual faculty that we are endowed with. The second is the heart, the emotional aspect that we all possess. And the third is volitional. That means I can react towards it, or can abstain from it. That also we have got, the willpower that we are endowed with. That also is there. But if our intellect is clouded by these attachments, then it influences our emotion. Dr. Gururaj Karjagi, one of a famous educationist in India, I heard one of his talks. He mentions that there are two types of mind within us. One is called the emotional mind, and the other is called the rational mind. The emotional mind is quick to come to conclusions. See, somebody says some word to you which is not very pleasant, and immediately you react. You are emotionally shaken by it. And when you react, then you, of course, you behave irrationally. You take the person to task, and then there will be a fire created over there. Whereas the rational mind, it acts slowly, analyzes the solution, the situation, comes to a conclusion. What if the person has said a few words? He is not very important in my life. Why should I pay so much of attention to him or her? Let me just ignore. There was this famous Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, just passed away a few days ago. He's from Vietnam, and he had to flee Vietnam, and he established center in France and many places, even Australia also we have some a few centers. Thich Nhat Hanh, in one of his saying, he says that when you are provoked, when your ego rises up, before reacting, I am just paraphrasing his words, before reacting, pause, take a deep breath, and tell your ego not to become disturbed. A beautiful way. Exhale, and then you will feel that you are free from that ego. It is that ego within myself. Oh, this person has the guts to say these words to me. So that is the ego. Try to kill that ego. Try to not kill that ego. Try to negate that ego. Just to not give any importance to that ego. So that's what the rational mind should do, and this happens through constant training. And Dr. Karjagi, he also says that when we are hurt, we become zero. What we have to be is not a zero, but we need to be a hero. And he gives an explanation of this. He takes the 4 letters H-E-R-O. H is the happenings. Something happens in your life. Things happen in our life about which we do not have any control over it. But things also happen for a reason in our life. So when something happens, that means this thing is happening. So let me calmly and coolly analyze this. So H is happening, that it is true, it's a true statement that this has happened. Somebody has said some word or some sentence not becoming of himself about me. So this has happened. Okay, so what do I do? If I have to become a hero, he says E is evaluate. How important is it for me to react to this situation? How important is this person in my life? Evaluate. If I react, would that make any difference to the person at all? So, first is happening, and E is for evaluation. Just evaluate the situation calmly and coolly, which the rational mind can do. And then he says R, H-E-R. R is do not react but respond. wonderful way of explanation. You do not react. Whenever we react to situations, we become miserable. But when we respond to situation, there is the element of understanding within us, and you give a proper response to the situation, to the person's words, or to the happening that has happened. So, the third is, do not react but respond to situations. And then O is the outcome. What will happen if you respond? The outcome will be that you will have perfect understanding within yourself, and also you will be able to understand the other person properly. You will not have much to do with that person from then onwards. Reject that person from your life altogether if that person is of no consequence at all. So instead of becoming a zero, which we become when we become angry, Sri Ramakrishna used to say that anger, he used to say in Bengali, Krodh Chandal. Anger is like the person, the undertaker, who burns the bodies. He takes in, if those who are from India, they know how they do it. They take the body in and then they will throw it or put them on the funeral pyre on the wood, and they will ask you to leave. And some of these people, I have seen also in my own life, they will take a stick and then they will almost beat and cut the body into several pieces so that it burns faster. They don't have anything, they don't have any compassion or any attachment to the body. For them, the body is another piece of wood only. But for the relatives, for the near and dear ones, the body is a sacred thing. It has lived with us for so long, and we do not want to disrespect it. So krodh, that means the anger is like the undertaker who will just burn the body. His only concern is how to burn the body with less expense. He will take the money, whatever he has to take from you, more than what he should take, but he will try to save, and then he wants to get more of the bodies to burn so that he can save the time also. So he does not have any kind of feelings towards the body. So krodh, when we are angry, that's what happens. We do not know what we are saying. Sometimes we don't realize what we are saying, and we also do not know what will be the consequence of it when we are into it. It's only later when we sit back and breathe deeply and we will see, why did I react in this manner? I was such a fool. I made myself a laughing stock in front of these people. Why did I do this? And then we go into our own small hole and then try to reason about it. No, that should not be done later, but let us reason beforehand. Anyway, Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives us instructions about how to deal with our mind. How best can we manage our mind? In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is known as Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, Arjuna seeks refuge in Sri Krishna and says, I cannot fight this war, so you do whatever you want to do with me. And he takes refuge at the feet of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna then gives him the highest knowledge ever possible, to be given to a being, Sankhya Yoga. He first puts before us the ideal of a man of perfection, a person who can be unperturbed under all circumstances. So he puts such a person's character before us through this in the Sankhya Yoga, and he says that if we think you will manage yourself everything and not take the help of the Lord, well, you are welcome to do it. But then when you are down, when you are depressed, who will help you at that time? You will be only crying, lift me up, lift me up, lift me up. So Sri Krishna says, take refuge in the divine. Just don't give importance only to your intellect, but also give some importance to your emotions and take refuge in the divine. Become humble and then approach an expert. When we are mentally unwell, we go to an expert, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and then we get some help, which is very essential. So in the same way, in our life, we also need an expert to guide us. And when the teachings go into us deeply, when we do what is told to be done, whatever is done continuously, that is one thing. Continuously, that means without any let or hindrance, you need to do it constantly. Anything that is done continuously, it becomes a habit with us. Bad things also done continuously becomes a habit with us. Good things done also becomes a habit. And when a habit is confirmed, when a habit has formed within us, it becomes our attitude. It becomes our attitude. With that we deal with ourselves and with the others. So Sri Krishna uses a unique method in this second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He demonstrates to Arjuna the futility of leading an ordinary life. See, Sri Ramakrishna gives an example. Look, if you want to go into something, go deeper into it. And he gives an example. A man once wanted some water from the ground. He had a farm, and so he had to supply water to the plants. So he started digging at one place. He went down half a meter or 1 meter and he didn't find water. He went and started digging elsewhere. He went on digging more of holes only. So an expert came and then he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "No, I am digging for water." "No, you can't do that. You first divine whether the water is there and then go deep. It might be we here in our ashram, we dug 70 meters down and then we got some water there. So it takes a lot of effort to go and dig deep. So dive deep into it or dig deep into yourself. So do not just lead an ordinary life and then have patches everywhere, only holes everywhere. So with a mind which is very deep, that means which becomes purified through drilling, constant exercises, then one can reach the goal. And then in the second chapter he enumerates the goal. Place the goal on a high pedestal before you and try to aim higher. Don't try to bring the goal down, the ideal down, and try to suit it to your own taste. No. The goal is definitely a lofty goal and you need to go towards it. And he talks about the doctrine of the indestructible Atman, which is present in everyone, every being. Then second chapter also talks about the facts about death, the inevitability and the unavoidability of death. It is certain. Whoever is born must die. There is no change, there cannot be any change over there. And he also says we come back from the unknown and we go back to the unknown. So what is the use of crying your heart out and not fight this war or wage this war of life? Then he also gives in the second chapter itself some indication about the doctrine of work, karma, dedication to our duties. Do all of your duties as if your whole life depends upon it. But try to be detached. You do your fully well whatever you need to do, but do it with a detached spirit. He places before us the ideal of sthita prajna, a person of a steady wisdom. In the third chapter, Arjuna feels a bit confused. He said, Sri Krishna, you have placed before me the highest ideal, and yet you are talking to me about doing work, waging the war, etc., which binds me. How can work and worship be the same? To which Sri Krishna says, yes, in the third chapter he says, there are two paths definitely. One is Sankhya Yoga, the path of knowledge, and then secondly the path of yoga, devotion and action. But one cannot become perfect by abandoning action, by refusing to do work, by abstaining from work. So, you need to keep on doing your work. And then he introduces the law of Yagna. Says, all the planets and the nature, continuously they are working, they are supplying the needs of the universe. Continuously they are doing a yajna. Do they do it for any benefit? No. It is their very nature to give. So this is called as self-sacrifice, the doctrine of yajna, self-sacrifice. At a lower level, in human level, it is to give and to take. We give something and then we accept something. But it is on a higher level, it is to give oneself completely to the divine and not seek anything. And then he also says, even people of realization work. What for? Because it is their very nature to give. And Sri Krishna gives his own example. I do not rest even for a single moment. If I rest for even a single moment, the whole universe will be destroyed. I continuously keep on working, even though I am not required to do it. I am the Lord of all, but I did not do anything. Yet I keep on continuously maintaining and creating the universe. And he also gives the difference between, in this third chapter, he also gives us this knowledge about the difference between a wise person and an ignorant person. The wise person is aware that all the actions, they spring from nature and the self is only the witness. But the ignorant person feels that I am doing it, I am enjoying it, I am doing this. Whereas a person of knowledge knows that he is not doing it. Nature makes you to do your work, that's all. Do the work that is required by nature to accomplish. It is not for us to think that I am doing it. No, I do not do anything at all. Be a witness. That is a great instruction that Sri Krishna gives to us in the 3rd chapter. The 4th chapter is termed as Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, renunciation of action in knowledge. See, Arjuna is a very sincere seeker. Amongst us also, we have very sincere seeker. His doubts about the divinity of Sri Krishna is not dispelled, even though Sri Krishna reveals to him when he is at a great awe, seeing Sri Krishna and listening to his words. But yet, some doubt props up. It is a human nature to doubt the divine purpose. So many a times, Swami Vivekananda once said when he was very young, he said, "This world is imperfect." And he said to Sri Ramakrishna, "If I were God, I would have created a better world than what it is today." See, there is that doubt about the purpose of the divine, and we think we can do better than God Himself. So, this doubt about the divinity of Sri Krishna had to be dispelled. Therefore, Sri Krishna brings in the doctrine of incarnation of the divine. On this occasion, I also want to remind ourselves of an incident in the life of Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda. The young Narendranath was doubting that Sri Ramakrishna is divine. Sri Ramakrishna was suffering from throat cancer. He could barely talk. And on one day, he was coughing so badly, blood was coming out, he was spitting blood. And the young Narendranath at that time, he said, if at this juncture, if at this moment, he can say boldly that he is divine, then only I will accept him as a divine personage. Sri Ramakrishna, not a single word could come out of his mouth, but with great effort, he looked at Narendra with tearful eyes and he said, "Naren, you still have the doubt?" Narendra did not express it in words, but his mind was asking this question. "Naren, you still have doubt about me? He who was Rama, he who was Krishna, is now born as Ramakrishna, but not in your Vedantic sense. In the Vedantic sense, everybody is divine. You are divine, I am divine, everybody is divine. But as an incarnated person, Sri Narendranath felt ashamed. I have doubted the divinity of my Guru." Then Sri Ramakrishna passes away on 16th of August 1886. Sri Ramakrishna was brought to Calcutta from Dakshineshwar Kali temple where he lived to Calcutta, where there was a garden house with an open garden. And a week after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, Narendranath, not yet become Swami Vivekananda, and another of his brother disciple, they were walking on the lawns of the garden. It was dusk, almost dusk, and they were discussing various matters. Soon they had to give up the house which they had taken on rent. They had to find some place for themselves to live. As they were walking, Swami Vivekananda saw Sri Ramakrishna coming from from the house towards him. His body was luminous, but he could see his body. In his mind he thought, well, this must be a hallucination. I must be hallucinating because I have lost my guru recently. I must be hallucinating. So he kept his cool. He didn't say anything. Just at that moment, his brother disciple who was with him, he shook him and said, Naren, look there. Look who is there. He asked, who is there? Can't you see Sri Ramakrishna? Then Narendranath believed that yes, he is divine incarnate and that he can be seen whenever I want to see him. So from then onwards, he did not doubt the divinity of Sri Ramakrishna. In the same way here, Arjuna is doubting the divinity of Sri Krishna. So to dispel it, he first says that I know, I have given the instructions to Sun, the God, Sun God. Evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo viduhu sakaleni amata yogo nashta. Says this has been carried through traditions. This teaching has been carried through tradition. And he also says, I know everything about your past births, and I also know about your future. But you do not know who I am unless and until it is revealed to you. Sri Krishna later in the 11th chapter, we see that he reveals his true form and Vishvarupa Darshana, and then the doubts of Arjuna about the divinity of Sri Krishna then is dispelled. In the 4th chapter, Sri Krishna also talks about the true meaning of karma sannyasa, that is giving up of action. Not that you shun any action, but you feel that the divine is doing everything and that you are a mere witness. So he talks about this in the 4th chapter. In the 5th chapter, which is called as Karma Sannyasa Yoga, Sri Krishna discusses that there are the harmony of these paths of knowledge and work. That knowledge and work can be together. Spirituality and work can go hand in hand. Both are valid. As long as the highest goal is kept in view. And he gives the example of the illumined souls like Janaka. King Janaka was a Rajarshi. He was a king. He had to take care of his subjects. It was a vast kingdom. He had to take care of it. But yet, he was a realized soul. And he says that even if the whole of my kingdom is on fire, it does not make any dent in my absoluteness. That means my individuality. It does not make any dent at all. He is so much samatva, that means of same-sightedness towards sorrow or joy. Nothing can touch that person. Nothing can change that person. Janaka says, I know that I do not do anything. So once we know the Maker, the Divine, everything else becomes revealed to us So this is the gist of the 5th chapter. And now this comes the 6th chapter called Dhyana Yoga. How to put all these teachings into our practice by concentration. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho bandhaya vishayasaktam muktyai nirvishayam smritam, says one of our scriptures. Mana eva, this mind itself, is the cause of both bondage as well as of release. If you get involved in Vishaya, that means the objects of the senses all the time, you get bound more and more. The bondage becomes stronger and stronger. Whereas when you offer everything to the Divine and then keep your mind on the Divine, then your mind will become totally free. So, Dr. Gururaj Karjagi again gives an example of a lock. The lock can be locked or unlocked with the help of the same key. Turn it towards one side, it gets locked. Turn it towards the other side, it gets unlocked. So the mind is one. It is for us whether to lock it or unlock it. We have within ourselves the great strength, divine given strength, to either make ourselves or mar ourselves. So that is the gist of the 6th chapter. In that chapter, Sri Krishna reinforces the need to work in a detached spirit, because meditation is only possible when our mind achieves that state of detachment. One-pointedness must be there. Second thing is one-pointedness. I may have a lens and I may try to burn a paper. I can focus it towards the sun and try to burn the paper. But something more is required than just the lens and the paper. What is it? That my hand should not shake, isn't it? If my hand starts moving, then the sun's rays will not be concentrated. It will not burn the paper. So in order for us to burn away all our tendencies, accumulated tendencies, we need to have a steady mind. Once we have the steady mind, then the rays of the Divine fall upon it, and then we will be able to burn all our past samskaras, past karmas. So, Sri Krishna talks about the practice of meditation, and he gives instructions about how to sit, how to meditate, how to control your breath, etc. The 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I will conclude very soon. 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita deals with Jnana and Vijnana. Very fascinating two words. Knowledge and experience. Jnana is knowledge, and then you put the knowledge into action and it becomes an experience to us. So here Sri Krishna emphasizes on relying upon the Divine. Mayi asakta mana partha, he says in that chapter. Mayi asakta mana. You are having a lot of distraction, you are having a lot of interest, but get interested in the essence, in the Divine, in me. And naturally, slowly and slowly, the other things will go far away. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when you are traveling towards the east, the west will be left behind. So in the same way, if we are traveling towards the Divine, if our goal is fixed that I want to reach the divine, then the other things which are trying to drag you back will be left behind. They will not have the power to keep you away from the divine. So the first thing is Mai Asakta Mana. That's the important thing. It means I must have that desire, intense desire. Shankaracharya calls it Mumukshutva. We have got this Manushyatva, that means being a human being. We have got a human body, no doubt. Manushya. Then we need Mumukshutva, the desire to become free, the desire to see God, to desire to become one with the divine. And then comes Mahapurusha Samshraya. In order for us to have that kind of yearning for the divine, we need to keep the company of the holy people, holy books, and holy thoughts all the time, so that we can go towards the divine. In the 8th chapter, Sri Krishna talks about the Akshara Brahma Yoga. Akshara Brahma Yoga, the imperishable Brahman, which we have studied in great detail. I will just conclude with the 9th chapter, revision of the 9th chapter, which we recently studied. It says that I will reveal to you the sovereign secret, sovereign's science and sovereign secret. That is Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya Yoga. That is, it is secret because it is sacred. A mantra is given by the Guru in secrecy and asks you to maintain the secrecy because it is so valuable, it is so sacred. You don't take a diamond and then put it in the on the table in your house. No, you have a wonderful, beautiful case, glass case, which is very secure, and then you display it. Otherwise, it will be stolen. So this is very sacred. That is why it is kept in secret. This is called as royal knowledge, and the choicest knowledge of all, Raja Guhya Yoga. And he talks about the truth about the Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman is Brahman, the divine, with qualities. Guna means qualities, who manifests the universe as thought. Sri Krishna identifies himself with the Saguna Brahman and says that when we follow him and worship him, we get the same benefits as meditating upon the formless, nameless Brahman, Nirguna Brahman. In Hinduism, there are two methods of approach to the divine. One is through Pratima and the other is through Pratika. Pratima is an image or a picture like we have kept here, Sri Ramakrishna's picture, Swami Vivekananda's and Holy Mother's picture over here. So we keep and we invoke the presence of the divine over here. That is Pratima. And there is the other type of worship where we have an emblem of the divine. It may be a Sri Chakra, it may be a Salagrama Shila, it may be a Shivalinga. So whatever it is just representation of that. Or sometimes in our worship, when we don't have either a Shivalinga or a Salagrama, we just place a flower and then accept it as a symbol of the divine and offer our prayers. Sometimes, especially in Kerala and all, you will see that they have a lamp, an oil lamp, and they invoke the presence of the divine in the lamp and they worship that. So these are the props for worshipping the divine. So Sri Krishna says, do not condemn anyone who is worshipping some forms, some may be worshipping some terrible forms, etc. Do not condemn them all. They all ultimately come and reach me. This is a beautiful chapter where we studied the requirement of all of us to hold on to an idea, maybe a picture or an image or a form of the divine, or even an emblem. Om, for example, we have Om here. Om is also an emblem of the divine. If you do not have anything, in fact, when Swami Vivekananda said, when I pass away, you cremate my body over here, and there you build a temple with only the symbol Om. So in Belur in our headquarters, we have two stories. One on the top where only the symbol Om is kept, and down below we have later, we also installed an image of Swami Vivekananda, a marble image of Swami Vivekananda. So either an emblem or an image, whatever it is, but take refuge in the divine. And he very famously says, Ananyaha chintayanto ma ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Those who constantly, continuously think of me, chinta mam chintayante tesham ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. I will take the responsibility. If you seek me, I shall take your responsibility. Yoga and Kshema. Yoga is to get things that are necessary. Yoga has many meanings. One of the things is to get something, is also called as yoga. And Kshema is to look after it. You do not have a house to live. The divine says, all right, I will provide you with a house. He tells somebody, give him a house. So that yoga. And then who will maintain the house? The Lord will also supply you the means to maintain the house. So once we take refuge at the feet of the divine will take responsibility of ours. But our refuge or our sharanagati, our surrender must be complete. Not for us to hold on to something. And then Sri Ramakrishna used to give an example of a lady. She was a flower seller. And so she went to the town once, and then she met her friend whom she knew before her marriage. And so they both started talking, and the other lady had a spinning or a spinning mill in her house. So she went and saw that there were lots of these yarns kept, with different colors of yarn. So the lady said, you wait here, I will go and prepare some tea for you. And she went inside to bring some refreshments. In the meantime, this lady saw that there were these colorful yarn over there, threads. So she said, oh, I would like to have this golden tie. So she just went and took one, and in those days they didn't have pockets. She hid it under her armpit. So when her friend returned to the room, she found that one of the yarn bundles are missing. So she knew that her friend has taken it. So she said, well, my dear friend, we have met after a long time. Let us dance for a little while. In joy, in happiness, let us dance. So this lady had a yarn in one of her hands, so she started dancing with one hand raised. The other friend said, well, my dear, why are you dancing with only one hand raised? You can dance with both hands raised. He said, no, this is how I have learnt my dancing. I have learned to dance only through one hand. No, that cannot be. If we have to take refuge in the divine, both the hands must be raised. That is, the surrender must be complete. Then only He will take care of us completely. If we are complete in our surrender, the Lord will be complete in His taking care of us. So that is where we concluded And from next Sunday, we will start studying the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We will stop here for today. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gaganasadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmikantam Kamalanayanam Yogiridhyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavavayaharam Sarvalokainkanatham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.